Hi, this is Nuggets for Life with Dr. Stanley Kamau. We are living in a season and a time of crisis. And a crisis is happening or an interruption of the norm. A crisis is something that you have no control about, although you can prepare for it. And our big question is, how do you thrive in a time of crisis? In life, you may not have control of what happens to you, but you can decide that what happens to you shall not affect you, shall not reduce you, or shall not derail you to that which you are doing. In the current world crisis that we are in, it's always good to remember that in life, 10% is what happens to you, but 90% is how you respond to it. So you may not have control of what happens, but you have control on how to respond to what happens to you. So you have the power to respond based on the decisions that you make. In the times of crisis, others rise, others are broken down, others are built up, others are broadened. So the whole issue is, how do you respond to this crisis? As a parent, as a student, as a teacher, as a business person, how do you respond to this crisis? All the schools are closed, but it's always good to know having schools being closed does not mean schooling has been closed. There's a difference between closed schools and schooling having been closed. So schooling is something that must continue. So we got to engage in this crisis with what we call lifelong learning. Lifelong learning. So learning becomes a way of life regardless of the crisis. So we got to be deliberate and intentional in our development. So as a parent, it's very important for you to know, how do you invest in the schooling process of your child? Because your child is an investment, it's not an interruption, it's not a burden, it's an investment. So in times of crisis, you got to know, where do you invest your time, your resources, and even your energy. So you got to invest in building the future as you control the present. So any investment that you do to your child educationally is actually salvaging the future. So in the times of crisis, you got to know, where do you put your energy. As a student, in this time of crisis, you got to take deliberate intention to control yourself, to drive yourself. Because in times of crisis, it's how you take charge of yourself, not the crisis taking charge of you. I hope you have heard what I've said. It is how you take charge of yourself, not the crisis taking charge of you. So at this moment, you got to be in charge. You got to take charge of your time, take charge of your resources, take charge of your program, so that the crisis does not derail you, but becomes an opportunity for your development. Everything that has been created, is good to know, it has been created in response to solving crisis. Crisis time is a time of innovation, is a time of creativity, and is a time that people come up with strategies that will enable them to go forward. So in this time of crisis, as a parent, ask yourself, what am I doing for the betterment of my children, of a betterment of my student, of a betterment of my family? Where am I investing? Every shilling, every time that is invested in the development of your child is actually a salvation of their future and an establishment of their success and their victory. So in this time of crisis, you may not control what is happening, but you can control how you respond to it. Because in life, 10% is what happens to us, 90% is how you respond to it. It is your response that will determine how life will be in future, what you shall harvest in future by your response today. It's your responsibility to take the right response, take the right initiative, and to be creative and innovative. As life goes on, may your life continue flourishing, thriving this crisis. Thank you.